Well, you can finally throw away your milk cartons with my picture on them. I am back, ladies and gentlemen, back from my well-deserved vacation and back attempting to make history happen yet again. Well, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I'm just excited to be here. For those who might have missed it, I've been away gallivanting through Europe for the last 2 weeks, Amsterdam to be more exact, and some parts of Belgium as well, as they do share a border. Fortunately, it wasn't one of those National Lampoons type vacations, although those looked kind of fun as well, though you probably had to be born before the 90s to understand what I'm even talking about. I'm actually amazed that we were able to see and do as much as we did in the short time that we were there. I mean, we visited castles, museums, farmers markets, several different festivals, etc. I guess it was kind of nice to have family living there, as we didn't really have to pay for accommodations or anything like that, and they showed us around quite a bit. I had actually been several times before, but it was the first time for my wife, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. It was kind of our honeymoon, as we got married right before COVID and never really had one until now, so it was nice. Speaking of nice, we do have some pay-per-views to talk about, don't we? Well, premium live events for those members of the WWE Universe, but it is still a pretty exciting time to be a fan. As AEW prepares to bet Double or Nothing tonight, the WWE may have had a winning hand with a couple of face cards showing, that of course being the King and Queen, and as the late Kenny Rogers would say, you gotta know when to hold 'em and know when to fold 'em. They went all in, and I think it paid off. We'll talk all about that and more in this episode, but first, your weekly news brief. As you may recall, AEW star Eddie Kingston was recently pulled from the Anarchy in the Arena match at Double or Nothing due to a legitimate injury. He was diagnosed with a fractured tibia and also suffered tears to the ACL and meniscus in his knee, which will unfortunately require surgery, and he is now looking at a roughly 9-month recovery period. And the injury bug has made its way to WWE as well, as former Stardom talent Julia will be out of action indefinitely after suffering a fractured wrist at a Marigold show. Hopes are high that she will be back in time for the NXT Heatwave event at the start of July in Toronto. AEW has reportedly changed the date of this year's All Out event, which is traditionally held over Labor Day weekend but will now take place 1 week later on Saturday, September 7th. I think this is a good call by AEW because I didn't think it was the best decision to host pay-per-views in back-to-back weeks. So there's a bit of a buffer now between All In and All Out. Now, if only they could do something about those names, but one step at a time. The WWE has officially announced its long-anticipated return to Japan this summer after almost 5 years. The tour will kick off in Osaka on July 25th and then 2 back-to-back dates in Tokyo. Brandy Rhodes, wife of WWE Universal Champion Cody Rhodes, posted a photo on Instagram this week from her hospital room, stating that she had been suffering from internal pain and discomfort since the birth of her and Cody's child Liberty in 2021. After multiple consultations, it was discovered that she suffered from endometriosis, which led to her recently scheduled surgery. I wish her a very speedy recovery. Stephen Borden, the son of wrestling legend Sting, who retired from the ring this past March, is apparently training to follow in his father's footsteps under the tutelage of Sting's protege and former tag team partner Darby Allin. The WWE announced this week that SummerSlam 2026 will emanate from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and for the first time ever will be a 2-night event. I guess in the absence of an NXT show that weekend, it kind of makes sense. WWE continues to make its annual round of layoffs, with a couple of long-term behind-the-scenes employees being let go this week. As of this point, there haven't been any additional talent roster cuts made, but I will try and stay on top of that story if it breaks. AEW announcer Jim Ross posted a recovery pic on X recently from a hospital bed with his 2 daughters by his side after being taken to an emergency room due to shortness of breath. He is not currently scheduled to appear at tonight's pay-per-view, but is expected to recover and be sent home shortly. And that is your news of the week. I mean, I guess the crowning of a new king and queen would also be considered news. In fact, let's talk about it. The WWE's latest PLE took place just yesterday afternoon from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and featured the finals of the men's and women's tournaments to crown respective king and queen of the ring. In fact, that was the name of the PLE. Michael Cole and Corey Graves were your commentary team as per usual, as they started with the traditional way of showing some notables arriving to the arena, including Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Gunther, Nia Jax, and Lyra Valkyria. The first match up was for the WWE Women's Championship with Becky Lynch defending against Liv Morgan. I get what they're trying to accomplish with Liv, but I'm still not completely sold on her, and I don't buy her as any kind of threat or world championship material. She hasn't changed my mind yet, but maybe one day. It isn't today, though. It was a fun match, and Becky had the early advantage. It did kind of get annoying at times when the announcers would repeatedly suggest that Liv always comes in second place. I found this especially odd for Graves, who is an antagonist and should be putting over the heel, instead of emphasizing what a loser she is. But I guess the key focus was putting the story over instead of the talent. But why not do both? Anyway, Becky tried for the hangman's leg drop that she likes to do with Liv draped across the middle rope, but Liv managed to basically sweep Becky's legs out from under her. Liv did a good job of avoiding the disarm her attempt and then tried for the oblivion, but Becky countered into a draping reverse DDT for a near fall. Liv went for a crucifix, but Becky rolled through and finally locked on to disarm her. At this point, Dominic Mysterio appeared at ringside and Becky got distracted enough to release the hold. I never understood that logic, to be honest. The announcers noted that Dominic appeared on the kickoff and says no way was he letting Liv get a hold of Mommy's title. The distraction allowed Liv to counter a manhandle slam attempt into a code breaker. Dom then slid a chair in, apparently for Becky to use, but Becky refused it, and as Dom distracted the ref, Liv DDT'd Becky onto the chair and then hit Oblivion to surprisingly win the title. I guess I understand why they did this, but I feel like the company sees a lot more in Liv Morgan than I do. We'll see how the next few weeks turn out. The triple threat match for the Intercontinental title was up next as Sami Zayn defended against Bronson Reed and Chad Gable. Gable came out with both Otis and Maxine, who was kind of dressed like C-3PO, though Gable almost immediately ordered her to the back, making it kind of surprising why they even bought her ticket for her to be there. And then during Bronson's entrance, that QR code flashed across the screen, and the announcers actually acknowledged it this time. I'm assuming this has something to do with Uncle Howdy, but I wonder how they will work him into existing storylines, as this gimmick hasn't really worked out thus far. Reed dominates the match early on, but then Sami comes back with a tope con hilo onto both guys at ringside. There was a Tower of Doom spot at one point, and then a pretty good sequence where Reed missed a moonsault on Sami, and without a wasted motion, Gable hit a moonsault of his own on Reed, who was already down. Later on, Gable had Reed trapped in an ankle lock, and then Sami applied an ankle lock on Gable, which looked pretty cool. Sami then executed a Blue Thunder Bomb on Reed, and then Reed loaded both guys up for a double stack Samoan drop. Then there was a double German suplex spot where Gable suplexed Reed while Reed suplexed Sami at the same time. On the outside, Otis, at the request of Gable, leveled Reed with a stiff clothesline. Gable then ordered Otis to attack Sami, but Otis hesitated. Gable then got in Otis's face, he pushed him and slapped him, and then finally held up Sami and demanded that Otis hit him. Otis finally went for the clothesline, but Sami ducked and Otis hit Gable by accident. Back in the ring, Sami drilled Reed with a haluva kick to keep the title. How Reed was still down all this time after an Otis clothesline is beyond me. Highlights are shown from the kickoff of the women's tag team title match with Bianca and Jade successfully defending against Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. Byron catches up with the champions, who basically say they're accepting any and all challengers and will take on anybody. The Queen of the Ring tournament final was next between Lyra Valkyria and Nia Jax. There are some notables in the audience, including the SmackDown Tag Team Champions A-Town Down Under, DIY, and the Street Profits, which was kind of odd to show tag teams in attendance for a women's match. Lyra came out wearing a Raven-inspired outfit, and Cole tried to explain the outfit as a tribute to her Irish background and some kind of symbol of heritage. They played a game of cat and mouse in the early going as Lyra just tried to hit and run, until Nia started using her power game. Lyra avoided a few attempts of the Annihilator. One of them, she tripped Nia up and then ran at her with a double stomp off the middle turnbuckle for 2. Nia later tried a Samoan drop off the middle rope, but Lyra wriggled free and tried for a sunset powerbomb, but Nia just fell on top of her with the Annihilator to win the crown. I thought this was a very clever finish. And then Paul Levesque came out to personally crown Nia as the Queen of the Ring. Kayla tried to get an interview, but Nia just ripped the mic away and said she knows that nobody is happy about this, but she's happy, and she'll be really happy when she walks out of SummerSlam as not only the Queen of the Ring, but the new WWE Women's Champion. I have to say, Nia has really improved her promo game since her return last year. There's a promo for the upcoming UFC Fight Night next weekend, which will take place in Saudi Arabia. Byron then catches up to some kind of commotion backstage where they show Becky Lynch just verbally assaulting Dominic for his involvement in the title match earlier. Becky says she doesn't know why Dom did what he did or why he's even here, but she does know that she has an automatic rematch clause. Didn't they get rid of those? And that she will talk to Pierce and will get her rematch on Raw this Monday. The King of the Ring was crowned next as Gunther took on Randy Orton. The whole story of this match was Orton's back, which Gunther zeroed on for the majority of the match, and Orton did an amazing job of selling. Kudos to both guys actually, and whomever the producer was. This was really well put together. Orton mounts a bit of a comeback in the latter stages of the match, but Gunther comes back with a huge clothesline. He slips a bit on the top rope, but does end up hitting a big splash to Orton's back. He tries for another one, but Orton moves and Gunther rolls through, but catches an RKO in the rebound, though he rolls to the floor. Orton meets him out there and hits a trifecta of belly-to-back suplexes to Gunther onto the announce table, which didn't break on any of the attempts. Back in the ring, Gunther locks on a Boston Crab. Orton fights his way free and hits another RKO, but when going for the pin, Gunther starts attacking Orton's knee, which I believe was also previously injured. Gunther then applies a crucifix for a very awkward-looking pinfall, which looked like Orton had his shoulder up, but the ref still counted, and so Gunther is the new King of the Ring. Aside from the bad finish, this was a really good match. Byron interviewed Gunther, who said that it feels great to be king, and it felt better to beat Randy Orton, and that he will be world champion at SummerSlam. Kayla interviewed Paul Levesque backstage, who made the announcement that Drew McIntyre is officially medically cleared to rejoin the active roster, and that at Clash at the Castle in 3 weeks, he will finally get his one-on-one championship rematch against Damian Priest. Before the main event, they show Piper Niven and Chelsea Green and LA Knight sitting at ringside. Ibrahim Al-Hajjaj is then brought out as the guest ring announcer for the title match. And that is Cody Rhodes defending the Universal title against U.S. champion Logan Paul. The match was pretty even in the early going until it spills to the floor and Cody starts getting into it with one of Logan's entourage guys at ringside. Cody actually flips this guy over the barricade, and as the ref steps in between them, another guy gives Logan the brass knuckles, which he uses on Cody's ribs. And then Cole starts yelling that Logan promised he wouldn't use them. Logan then gets in Cole's face, and Cole calls him a loser, so Logan starts to confront Cole, but then Graves steps between them. And before things escalate, Cody comes flying at Paul with a tope. Back in the ring, Cody hits the Cody Cutter. Logan comes back with his own version of the Crossroads for a near fall. The fight spills out to the floor again, and Logan tries for the pedigree on the announce table, but Cody blocks it and jumps backwards off the ringside barricade to hit a Cody Cutter onto the table, which again doesn't break. Logan is about to be counted out, but Cody stops the ref and says he wants to beat Logan. Logan catches Cody with a knockout shot on the floor, and then sets him up on the table and hits an unbelievable looking frog splash off the top rope to finally put Cody through the announce table. He hits another splash in the ring for 2. Then there's a ref bump as both guys accidentally splash referee Ryan Tran in the corner. Cody then hits the vertebraker, but there's no ref to count. Logan then hits a low blow and then once again grabs the brass knuckles, but someone grabs him by the foot. He looks down and it's Ibrahim. The distraction allows Cody to hit a succession of crossroads on Logan to finally keep the title. This was another good match, but I hope they're not planning to have Cody win all of his matches by hitting 3 crossroads. But that was Saturday afternoon. There is also tonight, and that is hosted by the AEW crew. The event is Double or Nothing, and here is your preview. It seems that we're getting a double dose of women's action, and both are title matches. Now, I had originally thought it would be a trifecta, which I felt a bit unusual for an AEW card, but then I realized that the match between Deonna Purrazzo and Thunder Rosa would be on the buy-in, which I think is ridiculous, but I guess less is more. It is the one that I was most looking forward to, but I honestly don't care enough about it to seek it out after. But of the 2 women's matches we are getting on the main card, the one that has most people buzzing is the TBS title match between Mercedes Moné and Willow Nightingale. I'm not sure if it's because people are just rooting for Mercedes to fail, or if they just want her to live up to the hype. To be honest, I haven't been all that impressed with her AEW run thus far. Specifically because instead of playing to her strengths, they've been basically exposing all of her weaknesses, which is her talking. But I think I found a way around that. I'm just going to ignore the supposed AEW ranking system for the time being because it's just going to make me upset. This could be a good match and I'd expect it to open the show. I would expect a Stokely error to end up costing Willow the match, and then it turns out that Stokely was in cahoots with Mercedes the whole time and becomes her new mouthpiece. So Mercedes is the new champion, basically replacing the role that Jade had for so long. The other women's contest on the show is for the World Championship with Toni Storm defending against Serena Deeb. As much as I like Deeb, and as much as I think this will be a strong match, the fact is that she isn't over. Toni Storm is, and they have to go with what's hot. So I think Mariah and Luther get involved to once again lead to a Toni Storm victory. The title matches continue as the FTW title is up for grabs in a triple threat match between Jericho, Shibata, and Hook. The way they got to this match is just super annoying, but the triple threat creates an easy out for Jericho to steal a pin on one guy while keeping the other strong. And I think this will be an opportunity for Brian Keith to align himself with Jericho and the Learning Tree and secure another victory for Le Champion. Blood will undoubtedly be spilled in the barbed wire steel cage match between Adam Copeland and Malachi Black. I think this is where Copeland gets the entrance he wanted in a WWE a couple of years ago, and we may also see an appearance by David Heath, otherwise known as Gangrel, to combat Brody and Buddy on the outside. Copeland is left to finally put away Malachi and close the door on this feud to finally move on to something bigger. There will also be multiple participants involved in the Trios title match, though legally in that one, as the Bang Bang Gang puts the gold up against Death Triangle. This one should be insane, and if we're getting a title change on this card, this will likely be it. I never understood the purpose of Trios titles, especially when their tag division is barely existent at this point, which is sad when you think that this company once had the best tag division in wrestling. Roderick Strong puts the TNT title on the line against Will Ospreay. This should be a very good match, and as much as I love Roddy, with all due respect, I feel like after the Danielson match, this is a huge step down for Ospreay. I would honestly be shocked if we don't get a new champion here. Another great one will undoubtedly be had between Jon Moxley and Konosuke Takeshita. I'm expecting an all-out brawl here, and possibly some blood to be shed from the head of Mox. This is kind of a random match to fill out the card, but I'm picking Mox to win on the basis that Takeshita is a sub-in for Powerhouse Hobbs. Former best friends, and I use that term without any pun intended, Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy will go at it for the second time in under a month. I don't know why they decided to give the first match away for free, and why they felt the need to do a rematch. I think we get an appearance by Chuck Taylor, who also turns on Cassidy, and reunites with his former partner to hopefully breathe some new life into the struggling tag division. And then of course we have the huge brawl that is Anarchy in the Arena with the elite team of Jack Perry, the Young Bucks, and Kazuchika Okada against the random combination of Bryan Danielson, Darby Allin, and FTR. This one should be nuts, but is a feud and angle that I couldn't care less about if I tried. I feel that the Elite at this point has go-away heat, especially Perry, and the worst part is they're dragging Okada down with them. That said, if they don't go over, then this angle is pretty much dead, so even though I'm rooting for them to lose, I can't see it happening here. I think one of the FTR guys can afford to take a loss here, so I'd have one of them take the pin instead of Darby or Danielson. And then the match that is being advertised as the main event, which I would be shocked if it is the big one for the World Championship between Swerve Strickland and Christian Cage. They could have done so much more with this than they have, and I'm truly disappointed that Swerve's title run thus far has been a bit of an afterthought and has taken a backseat to all of the nonsense with the Elite. This could be a really good match, and I can't see a title change here, but hopefully Swerve's booking will improve in the short term, because the handling of him as champion thus far has been puzzling to say the least. So that's all, folks. I'm out of here for another week. Next weekend I will have a full review of AEW Double or Nothing, and also preview the NXT Battleground event. Until then, I leave you with an 8-beat see ya.